everyone. I'm Theodore Elyett, a 33-year-old fashion designer based in Nassau, Bahamas, and currently pursuing my dream and my passion to become a global player in the fashion industry.
Hi everyone, I'm Shakia Albury, and this is On the Rise with Theodore Elyett. Hi Theo.
Hey Shakia, it's been a while.
I know, it's been a while since we've actually met up with one another.
Yeah.
And I must say that it is a privilege. You've been on the scene and it's been so busy and so hectic.
It has been.
And it's really good to have a one-on-one and a sit down with you. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
No problem, my pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about, yourself and what you do and, just a little bit about your career.
I guess I should start with, Theodore Elyett, 33-year-old fashion designer. Based here in the Bahamas, I get a lot of messages on social media asking, where are you based? Where are you based? I'm proudly based in the Bahamas, and just pursuing my dream and my passion to be a global player in the fashion industry. And some persons might be like, what does being a global player entail? When you look at one of my biggest inspirations, who is Oscar de la Renta, he's from an island nation designer who ascended to one of the greatest ranks in the fashion industry, a world-renowned brand. Even after he's passed on, his legacy remains, and that's the level that I would like to play at, with the big boys in the fashion industry. Being from an island 7 by 21, I want to show the world that, we are the greatest little country in the world because of our people, because of the talent of our people. And so I want to continue to push the envelope for fashion design, not only locally, but internationally as well.
Right. Now, speaking of fashion design, and that's something that you're going full throttle.
Full throttle.
Is it something that you always wanted to do? Was this always your passion?
I don't think I ever even had a choice in the matter, Shakia, because let me tell you, my mom had a garment factory on Shirley Street. So every day from preschool, primary school, straight into high school, every day after school was spent at my mother's factory. So I knew the ins and outs of manufacturing, mass production, screen printing, textile manipulation. I knew all those things from childhood.
And you were interested in it.
Definitely interested. From 8 years old, I used to, sew a straight line up a piece of cotton and tell my sister to put it on, and then put a little heat press on it.
Sorry, sister.
So I always knew that I had an interest for it. And so when my sister went off to do fashion design, I said, hey, this is probably something I'd like to get into. I'd steal her drawings sometimes, trace over it to get the body for my mannequins, and then I just draw from there. And so my career didn't actually take off or get its full meat until my best friend. We were both in 8th grade at the time. And she entered a modeling competition, and she's like, hey, you always around the place drawing, why don't you create a wardrobe for me for the competition?
Was that scary for you though?
Not at all.
Wow.
Let me tell you why. Because my parents always instilled in me that we could do anything that we thought we wanted to do, and so because I had that firm foundation, I was never afraid to really pursue something wholeheartedly. So when my best friend approached me to do it, I took it on. She didn't win. We won no prizes in the competition, and that was March of 1998.
Wow.
And then 5 months after that, 2 contestants in the Miss Bahamas pageant sent me a message and said, hey, we saw your work on the stage with the Miss Teen model competition.
Just like that.
Just like that, and we'd love for you to design for us. At that time, at the age of 13, I had no idea what this meant. I just knew I was pursuing my passion as a fashion designer. I knew that I wanted to put my art on the stage locally, and I had no idea where that first step would have taken me. And so 5 months later, I entered those costumes in the Miss Bahamas costume competition, and they won 3rd and 4th place.
Yes, I saw that. I'm like, oh my God.
They won 3rd and 4th place at 13 years old. So because I had that firm foundation within the home, that I could do anything I wanted to do, anything I put my mind to, I was able to go and achieve my dreams. And still now, 20 years later, this year makes my 20th year in fashion design. I'm still pursuing that dream. I haven't reached where I would like to be yet, but all of it started because I made that small step in the right direction, pursuing something that I loved.
Now, tell me, you said something about age 13, 8th grade, very young.
Very young.
Was that ever overwhelming for you? Did you ever feel like, okay, how do I balance my little 8th grade homework with this big dream that lives inside of me, and how am I going to make this big in the Bahamas? In 8th grade, did any of that just overwhelm you and consume you?
When you love something, Shakia, like for me, I still find it, how do I say, I'm still blown away when I'm out to the grocery store, I'm getting gas, I'm pumping my gas at the gas station, and people walk up to me. I went to Grand Bahama on a trip, very random trip. Walked across this guy, I had a conversation. He was telling me, he's been unemployed for so long. He's probably like in his 50s now because, the economic state of Grand Bahama. And then he goes on to say, I hope you're still doing your fashion thing, man. You were a great inspiration to all of us. And it's shocking to me when I interact with persons like that who I don't even know, all the way in Grand Bahama. And they know about my fashion career. And so when you're doing something that you love, it's beyond the fact of, oh, this dream is so big, I'm only 13 years old, I'm only in the 8th grade. At that point, I never even thought about it. And I knew it was something that I loved, I knew it was something that I wanted to get into. And so I just went after it full throttle. I was never afraid of anything. And I always say, you know, I'm a Leo. And Leos like to take control of a situation. And so I knew what I wanted, I set the goals for myself, and I just took control of the situation. And to date, I continue to take control of the situation. I never allow a project that I enter into to be bigger than the bigger picture. The bigger picture is reaching to the goalpost. So every project along the way is just a step in that direction.
Right, right. Now, in regards to your journey, and you know, from being involved in your mother's store operation, you know, and from there until now, describe how interacting with persons has caused you to grow as a person. How has it caused you to develop mentally, spiritually, emotionally? How did you mature throughout the way? You know, was it you know, an overnight thing, or
Definitely
it just
not.
you know
No.
it was definitely a learning process, a day-to-day process? How was your maturity growing through it all?
I still continue to grow, you know, Shakia. I believe that throughout this journey that we call life, the process of education and growing is continual. And I always tell persons, you know, if you miss the lesson in the journey and in the process, you'll never reach the end goal, because it's always, you have to learn a lesson to get to the next stage, because you can't get to the next stage until you've conquered that lesson. And so for me, I've always been able to pull from those around me. Starting at 13 years old, I was the youngest in the industry at the time. I was surrounded by fashion greats like Shane Rollet, Jeff St. John, Percy Wallace, Lisa Humes, Patrice Lockhart, Sabrina Francis, Judy DeVoe, sorry. And these were the persons that I was able to look at and say, you know, they're almost at the prime of their game, if not at the prime of their game. Most of them, you know, peaked and looking to peak again. And so it's almost like when persons say, you know, we from the Caribbean kind of, we don't understand the race issue in the U.S. Because persons in the U.S. never really had that black leader figure to look up to. But we in the Caribbean, we've always been fortunate to have leaders in great positions who were of the black race that could give us the aspiration that we could be bigger than just being a big fish in a small pond. And so these persons who were, you know, at the peak of their game were able to inspire me, and I was able to learn from them, interacting with them in different spheres. And so I continue to learn from that. Jeff St. John was my favorite designer. And because of Jeff, I fell in love with silk. And today I still use silk because of Jeff St. John. And so it's always a learning process. I look at young designers now like Felicia Ellis. Felicia and I are in set. Felicia's a wedding bridal designer. That's what she specializes in. She can do everything, but she specializes in that. And I continue to learn from watching her. I mean, she doesn't even know this, but we're tight. And you have to develop these relationships, because in the fashion industry, relationships are so important. And the minute that you think that this journey is just for me and I stand in this alone, you lose sight of the bigger picture. And especially in a small industry or a non-existent industry in the Bahamas, like fashion design, you have to stick together. You have to find your crew and your tribe and travel with those, and you learn from a symbiotic relationship with one another.
Now you're talking about relationships. So, you know, in anything
Don't
in
ask me
life,
about no personal relationships.
No, on the flyer on social media it said professional questions only. Right. But in regards to relationships and your professional relationships that, you know, help you throughout your career, was there ever a point in time where you came across, you know, a crew of people or a set of people that you found that, okay, maybe I can't shine like how I really want to, because, you know, I'm afraid of stepping on any toes? Or were these people persons that really encouraged you, persons that really, you know, motivated you along the way? Did you ever have to pull back in fear of intimidating anyone around you?
I'd have to say no, because I have to be careful how I say this, because I don't want it to come across the wrong way. I just never cared. You know, when you
just always had tunnel vision.
Right, when you, okay, for lack of better words, when you, people say haters, right? I don't really use that term, because I don't focus on it. When you realize that you have negative persons in your surroundings, in your environment, you give them fuel and fire when you feed into that negativity. And so for me, I've never paid attention to the tabloids. I knew what I wanted. I focused on my goal. I surrounded myself with like-minded persons who were interested in helping me to get to another place. So I never could actually honestly say that I had to step on anyone's toes in order to get what I wanted. Luckily enough, I keep an open relationship with God, where so many times the path before me has been cleared because I have that open relationship with Him. And I surround myself and I network with people who are going to take me to the next level. So I've never had to deal with the negativity of trying to dim my shine for somebody else. When you surround yourself with the right persons, you won't ever have to encounter that, because the base of the relationship is I'm helping you grow while you help me grow.
Right, right. Now, you talk a lot about your entrepreneurial passion and the course that you took in your career and that you're still taking. Have you ever worked a 9 to 5?
I have worked in 9 to 5 for 18 years out of my 20-year career as a fashion designer.
Wow.
And it's not easy. I mean, right now, take for instance, I go to work 6 a.m. I have to be here from 5. I go to work 6 a.m., get off at 3 p.m., and then I come to a second place. It's not of employment, but I'm currently an artist in residency at the Current, and so I work between 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 producing my art pieces to further push the envelope for fashion design. And then I get home, I have an hour to take a shower, eat, go to bed, and repeat the cycle the next day. And then on the weekends, I could possibly get in some of my fashion design, or I pull an all-nighter to fulfill a piece for a client. People don't understand the work and the time and the effort and the emotion. They see the glitz and glam of social media that I put on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, because that's the brand, and the brand has to continue whether I'm tired or not. I have to market the brand. But at the end of the day, the work that goes into the process, where you see the end product, is so much more larger than the beautiful stuff you see at the end of the day. So I've always had a 9 to 5, and I always encourage artists to have a 9 to 5. I was at a recent artist talk the other day, and the guy on the podium was telling persons in the audience that he doesn't think that as an artist you can be considered an artist or a professional artist if you have a 9 to 5, because it's considered a hobby when you have a 9 to 5, because a 9 to 5 takes up so much of your time. And I had to send him a message, and I said I wasn't going to approach you in the crowd, because that's not my style.
That's happening.
I sent him a private message, and I said, you know, it really irritated me, because 18 years out of my 20-year career, I've had a 9 to 5. And in those 20 years, I've been able to progress as an artist because of the 9 to 5, financing the dream. And so you have to be very careful when you're on a platform and you have a position of leadership where you're able to influence persons. Be careful of the things that you feed into them, because it's possible. It's possible to have 2 9 to 5s and still pursue your dream. It's all about the passion and the dedication that you put into that. And so I've always had a 9 to 5, Shakia. I can't say that I always will have a 9 to 5, but when the dream is fully funded and has stretched its wings and takes flight, then I can release the financial stability that the 9 to 5 brings to me.
Right. Let's just backtrack a bit. You talked about the glitz and the glamour.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at the glitz and the glamour on social media, like you said, that's the brand.
Yeah.
We have to do certain things to build the brand. Anyone has to do certain things to build their brand. But they don't see the late nights. They don't see, you know, sometimes you get fed up and tired easily because your patience is very short, you know, because you've been up all night. They don't see, you know, we're not going to talk about personal relationships, but they don't see the strain that it causes sometimes because you're just so into what you're doing. How would you advise persons to deal with that? You know, how do you take vitamins? Do you exercise? What do you do for your mental health? You know, how do you keep it going?
That's very important. That's an awesome question, because it's so hard, Shakia. Like, I know. Persons have, I almost want to cry, because I get emotional about it, because persons really don't understand how hard it is. And it's not that I'm complaining or anything, don't get me wrong, but if you're going after your dream full throttle, it ain't easy. You will lose friendships, you will lose relationships, because people don't understand the balance of, and any relationship I enter into, whether it is a personal relationship or a friendship, I tell them, listen, my work will always come first, because at the end of the day, when you walk out the door and I was spending all my time building that relationship with you, my work would have been suffering. And it ain't no way on this earth that I'm going to put a relationship, whether professional or personal, before my career and my goal, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to fulfill me at the end of the day. So it's hard. It's hard finding the balance physically and emotionally. Through this process, I lost 2 of my biggest supporters, my mom and my dad, and they were the backbone of my support. And when you hit on the topic of dealing with things mentally, I had to take a 3-month break at the end of last year, because I just kept going and going, and that was my way of coping with the circumstances around me. But you have to understand that as a human, We have to be a whole being.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and mentally, you have to find that balance. And so sometimes you have to pull away. Sometimes I take a social media detox where I just shut down for a month. I pull back, I re-energize myself, because it's almost like a preacher. You know, a preacher on Sunday morning, after they done do that whole hullabaloo up there on stage, sweating and pouring, you see the usher takes them into the back room because they're tired.
Yeah.
And for an artist, I have this conversation with my sister all the time. As an artist, at the end of the day, after I've put out a piece, after I've put out a show, I'm drained, because every time I produce something, that's a piece of me I'm giving to the world.
Exactly.
And so you have to understand the importance of pulling back and giving yourself
back up.
time to re-energize and refocus, and then go full throttle again.
Right, right. Now, in the process of re-energizing yourself to go full throttle, how much harder is it after you've had a blow? You know, and I'm talking about a professional blow. You know, it's good and well when, you know, persons are accepting my designs. You know, I'm getting offers here, there, and everywhere. You know, my social life is great. You know, I can go and hang with friends, just kind of relax. You know, but how much harder is it after a blow? You know, at some point in time, I'm sure you've had a blow. You know, and if you're willing, tell us about an experience that just really knocked you down but made you stronger afterwards.
I think that I've been lucky, not lucky, I've been blessed, where I haven't really had a blow that has knocked me down completely. But I've had enough where I guess I can share with you a few things. I'd definitely say losing my parents was the biggest blow to me, because like I said, they were the backbone of the family. My mother, my father, my sisters, and my brothers and I are like this. And so when you lose the pillars of that foundation, it's hard. And so for me, like I said, the way that I coped with that was just I kept working. The day my father died at 5 a.m., 7 a.m. I was at the job. I was working. My mother passed away when I was at work. The next day, I went back to work. I took no leave. For me, that was my way to cope. And so how I dealt with that was, like I said, at the end of 2017, I took a 3-month break and I pulled back. Another instance is, as a fashion designer, sometimes you have to fund your own career. And if there's a dry spell where you have no 9 to 5 and you have no clients coming in, I consider that a blow.
That's a blow. That's definitely a blow.
Because at the end of the day, you not only want to pursue your dream because you love it, you want to pursue your dream because you want financial gain from it at the end of the day. It has to make business sense. It has to make business sense. And so for me, I found that, you know, I have to have that balance where I have the 9 to 5 to support it, especially if I want to pull away from so much client work, because client work within itself is draining.
And it's very demanding, I can imagine.
Because you have to meet the demands of people. And in this market, the demands are intense. You will make a dress that is almost 100% correct to the specifications what they ask for, and could you raise the hem a little bit, could you change the shoulder, could you add a sleeve, could you take the back out, and it becomes draining. And so at the end of the day, I would like to kind of steer my fashion career to focus on retail, because that's the end goal for any fashion designer. You want to get into stores, you want to get into boutiques locally, regionally, and internationally, so the brand expands. And so for me, I think that the blows that I've received in terms of being financially strapped a lot of times has encouraged me, and I use that as fuel to propel me to say, hey, look, you need this 9 to 5. If you're going to pull away from the client work, which is possibly going to fund you and the career, then you're going to have some kind of cushion at the end of the day. And so I've learned a lot from those lessons to allow them to fuel me as opposed to discourage me. Right,
and you know, I think just the very thing about the 9 to 5, I think persons overlook. It's not just getting out of your bed every day to go on your dream job or to start your career just like that.
Right.
You know, it's a process, and you know, you have to respect the 9 to 5, put your heart into that, and put your heart into your own work. So that's very important.
Exactly.
Now, you just came from before royalty.
Yeah.
The only Bahamian fashion designer to be before royalty and showcase his designs. Now, there was a picture that you posted on your Instagram and on Facebook, standing next to Naomi Campbell. And person's like, oh my gosh, that's Naomi Campbell.
People have no idea.
Theo.
No idea.
But hold on. I said, no. That's not Naomi Campbell standing next to Theodore Elyett. That's Theodore Elyett Seeley standing next to Naomi Campbell.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
recognize our own.
Yeah.
How did that feel? I mean, take us through the emotions, take us through, you know, the nerves, take us through the work that went behind that. How did that actually feel?
The journey within itself is something that blew my mind, Shakia, because during that 3-month time off last year, I got an email or a message on LinkedIn, and nobody ever uses LinkedIn.
Right.
So I get this message, and they say, we'd like to invite you to come to London to showcase at Buckingham Palace. And so the first thing I'm thinking is, London? This is a hoax? They want to try to get me to Europe and sell me on the black market? I ain't going. So I didn't respond to the message at all, actually. And 2 weeks later, they sent another message. So I'm like, let me just Google this company and see what they're about. When I Googled that company, things were just popping out. I mean, Anna Wintour, some of the biggest names in the fashion industry. I'm like, okay, I'll be there.
Reply.
So I sent them a message. Fast forward about a month and a half, 2 months later, I was in London to go to Buckingham Palace. When I stepped up to the security gate and I handed them my passport as my identification, the tears filled in my eyes because here I am, 33 years old, Shakia, from an island only 7 by 21. I have an opportunity because of my talent and because of my connection to God with favor, uncommon favor. I'm walking through the gates of Queen, of the Queen. And I'm not just walking through the gates of the Queen, but I'm also having the opportunity to showcase my talents to the world. And so as I walked, I'm not sure if you watched the Netflix series The Crown. Do you watch that? Listen to me, the sound effects in The Crown when they be inside the courtyard walking over those gravel, right?
This is exactly.
It sounds exactly like that when you walking on that gravel. And I'm like, I'm walking on the gravel into the Queen's Palace. And so I walk through the gravel, through the main courtyard. I walk up the red carpet to the cloakroom. And I walk into the cloakroom and they have all these little young Brits in there with their nice little accent. Can I take your coat for you, sir? And I'm like, wow, me.
Yes.
33-year-old young guy from the Bahamas. It was just a mind-blowing experience. And to walk up the stairs and enter the main staterooms of the palace, I mean, all I could say, Shakia, is that it literally blew my mind because it was an opportunity that came to me as a blessing. And when I tell you I worked that because they told us as the designers in the program, stand by your gown because if anyone comes to you throughout the entire night, you're going to need to be able to talk about it. And then I get wind that Anna Wintour is in the next room where my dress isn't. And she's standing with Kate, the Duchess, right? And I'm like, it ain't no way that Kate and Anna Wintour is in the next room and I'm going to be standing here next to my dress.
So did you like literally lift up everything?
No, I left the dress. I left the dress and I went to the next room. When I walked into the next room, there is Naomi Campbell and Edward Enninful, the editor of British Vogue. And I hear God in my head because I said a prayer before I left my hotel room that night. I said, God, you didn't bring me this far for it to just be an exhibition. I said, you brought me here. Let me meet the right people, not just meet the right people for photo ops, meet the right connections for business in the future. And I said, open these doors of favor and opportunity for me and allow me to do the work. And immediately when I saw Naomi Campbell, I heard in my head, it's now time for you to do the work. It wasn't like they just walked up and said, oh, let's take a picture with your dress. I had to approach them. And if you know the rumors about Naomi Campbell, that wasn't easy.
No,
it wasn't easy.
Sure
and so I ran after her and Edward, because when they saw me come in, they went the next way. And I went after them. I said, do you mind just coming over to the next room to see my dress? I'm a fashion designer from the Bahamas. And they said, oh, we're just about to leave. I said, oh, well, it'll only take 2 seconds for you to come on over. And so I worked. And people don't understand that in every circumstance where you achieve something, you have to put in the work. And so I worked for that. And trust me, I gave someone my camera. I'm like, just take as many pictures as you can. And just being able to stand next to Edward, the editor of British Vogue on my right, Naomi Campbell, the world's supermodel, Naomi Campbell, on my left. These are people who I flip through magazines and I see. I turn on fashion television and I'm there between them. It was an opportunity of a lifetime. I got to speak with one of the writers from US Vogue, Hamish Bowles, my first fashion video I ever watched, 13 years old. Hamish Bowles was doing an interview with Tim Blanks on Fashion File. Fast forward 20 years later, here I am in Buckingham Palace next to Hamish Bowles, who curated the entire exhibition. I was able to have networking opportunities with retailers out of Nigeria. Some of the persons who participated in the program were from Rwanda, the Cook Islands, Malaysia. These are persons I got to interact with, and so that prayer that I said before I left my hotel room that night, I watched it blossom before me. I was able to meet the CEO of Swarovski Crystals. This opportunity opened up the door for me to collaborate with a world-renowned crystal company out of Austria. I didn't go after them, you know. I sent the process pictures of me working on the garment to the organizers. They sent it to Swarovski, and they said, wow, we want to partner with this guy. And even outside of that experience at Buckingham Palace, they sent me a letter 1 week after returning home and said, whatever projects you have going on in the Bahamas, we want to partner with you moving forward. Yeah.
Wow.
And these mind-blowing experiences only happen, Shakia, because I stay true to the dream, I'm dedicated, I work, and I network.
Exactly. Well, I would have to say, and, you know, getting you to come and sit here with me, you know, you are one of the most humble people that I have met.
Thank you.
And you know, all the guests have been humble thus far, but you know, when I communicate with you, you are just so, you know, in addition to being just so smooth and so polite, you know, it's like nothing shakes you. Yeah. Nothing gets you too excited, nothing gets you out of character. Yeah. If something can be done, you say it can be done, but I suggest. Yeah. Or you say, you know, I think we should. You know, and then you also apologize if you can't reach. You know, I'm like, you know, this well known, this one of us, this world renowned fashion designer is in my inbox, and he's apologizing. He's apologizing for not being able to reach me. And I'm like, you know what? It's okay. I'm just happy that you responded.
And you know, Shakia, because for me, it's never been about the fame. Like I tell you, my mom always I used to get in arguments with my mother because I wanted to walk out the house in a shirt that wasn't pressed and just some jeans and some flip-flops to go buy some chicken in the bag. And she's like, you have to curate the image that you want for yourself, and that image is what people are going to respect you by. And so even though I carry myself in a certain way, I still is just a regular Bahamian male, just like anyone else who just has a dream and a passion. And so the fame and everything that comes along with it, it doesn't shake me, it doesn't move me. I wanted to be able to inspire others, because when I was 13 years old, I had persons in the local industry that inspired me. And so that's what I want to be able to be for that 13-year-old boy or that 13-year-old girl who feels as though because there's a non-existent fashion industry in the Bahamas that they can't make it. So I want to continue to put those positive vibes out there. And you talk about being humble and not being shaken by circumstances. These are all attributes I gained from my parents. If you ever met my dad, the most humble guy on earth. And I said at his funeral, you know, if I could be even half of the man that he was, I'd be grateful at the end of the day. When you talk about having an unshakable character, if anyone knew my mother, Sandra Seeley, you knew that that woman was unable to be shook. You know, and so I realized that those pillars and the knowledge that they put in me throughout my years of being able to be with them and interact with them, it has made me the man that I am today.
Right, and you know, Theo, I would definitely say your parents are looking down, and I'm sure that they're very proud of you.
Don't make me cry, man. I cry very easily.
But I'm sure they're very proud of you. But you know, is there a particular quote or a scripture verse that you live by? You know, when just kind of remind yourself to keep going, to keep pushing. Is there anything that you recite to yourself? Is there, you know, just share that with us if you have that.
There is a scripture verse. I don't know the verse itself, but I always say it to myself because it's something that my mother always ingrained in me. And she said, sow your seed in the day and sow your seed in the night, because you don't know which one is going to take root first. And that goes to the whole aspect of me telling you, your 9 to 5 is what you sow in your seed into in the day. Your passion and your dream and your talent is what you sow in your seed into in the night. And you sow into those and you reap the harvest from those, because you don't know which one is going to bring the most bounty at the end of the day. And so that's a principle that I always live by. And it has carried me quite far because I continue to sow seeds in the day and in the night. I mean, when I tell you sometimes I work around the clock, 3 days at a time, just no sleep. And it's not because, you know, I have no care for myself, but at the end of the day, sometimes you have to put the dream and the passion at a certain level, and then you come back and you take care of yourself at the end of the day. But that's the scripture verse that I live by, and it has carried me for quite some time.
Okay, that's excellent. And I think, you know, I'm going to end by asking you this question, and I want you to look in the camera when you answer it.
What is this?
Can you say that in 2018 you are on the rise?
I'm definitely on the rise, and I think that that's a great way to put it, because I haven't arrived, and I don't think that I have peaked yet even, but I'm on the rise because the dream continues, the process continues. I'm nowhere near being where I would like to be at the end of the day as a fashion designer. The end goal for me is being in retail, and that's the end goal for any fashion designer, and so the process continues, the dream continues, and I just hope that along the way, as I'm able to be on the rise, I'm able to encourage other persons out there. I heard something before at a recent seminar that I went to. They said, you know, the elevator of success goes up. And when the elevator of success carries you to a certain place in your career, in your passion, in your dream, be sure to send that elevator back down to bring somebody else up to your level of success. And so for me, as I'm on the rise and as I ascend on the elevator of success, I always want to send it back down to encourage persons who may not even be interested in fashion design, but they're interested in pursuing their dreams wholeheartedly. Me being on the rise continually, not only in 2018, but beyond, I want it to be an encouragement to them that it's possible.
Well, let's end the session by saying, you know, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust within them. And I can definitely say that after having the privilege of sitting with Mr. Theodore Elyett Seeley, that he is all of the above, and he is definitely on the rise in 2018. Bye-bye.